This video is sponsored by Surfshark. More on them later. In all my time on the internet, there has been absolutely zero shortage of people claiming that hard games are in fact a piece of cake. I can understand that everyone experiences games differently and that we're all at different skill levels, but it takes a lot of generalizing to dismiss a Dark Souls game out of hand for being too easy. The truth is that they're not, and can and will punish a new player for making the tiniest of mistakes. And so when a franchise earns a reputation as brutal as this, it can be jarring to hear someone call them easy, or watch a speedrun that effortlessly glides through the hardest challenges, or, you know, see a new player beat one of these bosses on their first try. Yeah, you're not supposed to be able to do that with the Soulsborne games, and yet there exist about a dozen shockingly easy boss fights in these games that seem to have been plucked from a different game entirely. So yeah, that's my task today, to make a video that proves that all these contrarians out there who claim that Dark Souls is really easy are sometimes right. You know what they say about broken clocks? Soulsborne games are very good at making you feel bad about your own abilities, and so it's going to be very refreshing hearing about some easier boss fights, especially since this video is sponsored by Surfshark, and I'm all for an easier life where I don't have to worry about my personal information being stolen by internet pirates. You know, internet piracy is like the Dark Souls of internet browsing. If you think some random Soulsborne bosses are easy, then you should hear just how simple today's sponsor Surfshark have made it to be more secure when connecting to the internet. VPNs like Surfshark let you connect to servers across the globe, with Surfshark in particular having over 3,200 servers spread across 65 countries, so you can access international streaming libraries and can watch exclusive shows on, say, Japanese Netflix. Hope you like your anime! Plus, it's worth mentioning that there's some more serious applications, since online security is more important than ever these days, and Surfshark can help secure your data with industry-leading measures by using impenetrable encryption and the best VPN protocols around, so you can join public Wi-Fi and watch more of my videos safe in the knowledge that your personal data is being kept nice and safe. Surfshark is really easy to install and can run on unlimited devices from a single subscription, so you can safely do all your interneting on a huge number of different platforms. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 live customer support, that's a lot of good news. You can go to surfshark.deals/RabbidLuigi and enter the promo code RabbidLuigi for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. That link is also in this video's description if you don't fancy typing all of that out. Secure your connection now with Surfshark. Okay then, time to talk about the easiest franchise ever made. Bloodborne is my favourite Soulsborne game of the lot. I thought Elden Ring might run it close, but I played Bloodborne all the way through again a few weeks ago, and it's pretty damn close to being flawless. Obviously not perfect by any means, but good enough in virtually every area for me to not even care all that much when the boss fights get a little too easy. Most of the easier fights are set up more like puzzles, where you have to work out the solution, and of course, once you know what to do, it's a walk in the park. I would comfortably describe these as the easiest fights in the game, but I want to talk about something a little trickier that I feel is worth including based on when and where you fight it. Bloodborne doesn't have a lot of optional boss fights, but the one that requires the most amount of effort to reach can be described as the true final boss of the game. After scouring the world for hard-to-find pieces of umbilical cord, yikes what a sentence, you unlock an additional boss to fight after the usual final boss battle with Gehrman. Now, clearly this isn't the single easiest fight ever made, or it'd be a lot more infamous and wouldn't require me to set the scene for you intelligent people, but my main argument is that Gehrman is one of, if not the hardest fight in the game. As such, this whole setup follows the usual archetype of horrendous eldritch abominations being kind of okay to defeat, and normal-looking human characters being ridiculous roadblocks to your progress, and hey, I'm fine with that. But having two fights like this that are so different back to back really accentuate their separate causes. Like, Gehrman is fast and hits like an asteroid, which is very fitting for the final fight in the game, but putting the hard yards in to unlock something after him is not adequately rewarded. The moon presence may look amazing in a barely conceivable kind of way, but the actual fight with it is so underwhelming. There's this health drain attack that can be a pain, and its design is abstract enough that it can be hard to tell when it's about to attack, but the only real challenge here comes from being too beat up from Gehrman to survive the moon presence as well. It's the vulture of hidden Soulsborne boss fights. Likely couldn't take you down when you're fresh, but after some tenderizing from Gurman, it's free real estate. Next time, the lumps of umbilical cord will stay lost, thank you very much. I came to the conclusion a while back that Dark Souls 2 got caught up a little bit too much in trying to be a sequel to Dark Souls. Improvements can be made, of course, and I think FromSoftware wanted to emphasize how much better the sequel was, and of course, that meant more boss fights. Not necessarily better fights though, and while there's clearly some massive highlights in there, because FromSoftware generally know what they're doing with creating boss fights, there's a ton of deadwood as well. I did want to talk about the Covetous Demon for being this big grey worm with lots of HP and 2 obvious attacks, but I actually died on this thing recently, so I'm now legally bound to talk about the Royal Rat Vanguard instead. I don't make the rules, I just work here. Sir, this is a Wendy's. There's a classification of boss fights that FromSoftware like to roll out every now and then, and that's the Horde boss fight. It's a big group of enemies, and you either need to defeat all of them or one specific one or few hidden in this crowd. They generally aren't very hard and often don't come with too many gimmicks, although FromSoft did start to jazz them up after Dark Souls 2. However, Royal Rat Vanguard is about as vanilla as it comes and can be accurately described as a big room of rats, but one of them takes a few more hits. If that doesn't get your juices flowing, then frankly I don't know what will, but perhaps you'll find some strange satisfaction in mowing down a room full of the same enemy and killing a boss in less than half a dozen hits as it dies inside 10 seconds of spawning. Given the choice though, would you rather beat a group of rats to death in a shorter time than it's taken me to speak this sentence, or fight one giant rat who keeps poisoning you? Yeah, suddenly more rats ain't so bad now. Can't say that's been said all too often. I am really impressed that Elden Ring was able to maintain such a consistent approach to boss fights. Open world design tends to make it a rough deal to balance a game's difficulty appropriately, since openness doesn't tend to lend itself well to a smooth difficulty curve. Elden Ring is helped out a lot by its reputation as a Soulsborne game, which practically necessitates that every boss you come across can kick your ass in 17 colourful ways, but some fancy level scaling doesn't hurt either, even if Elden Ring doesn't actually do this. The most self-evident example of ability scaling can be found when you fight the Mimic tier, which, as its name helpfully implies, is a boss that copies your equipment, skills, and appearance for a mirror match against you. I have always loved when games have done this in the past, and seeing this fully realised in a Soulsborne game makes me all sorts of giddy, but there's an issue with this kind of mirror match. Namely, the AI is only capable of doing certain things, and I, seasoned veteran gamer man that I am with more than 300 confirmed kills, can do so much more. Nothing demonstrates how exploitable enemy AI can be than when the AI is attempting to mimic your behaviour. It is a very decent attempt by FromSoft, but when the veil slips, it does leave some pretty massive holes in the Mimic tier, which you can then leave some massive holes in. The shaky AI is compounded by this being a mostly one-to-one replication of what you have equipped at the time, and I hope you've picked up from my massive overemphasis of those words that you can mess around with this thing for a super easy win. You can walk around naked as a jaybird until you find the Mimic and then just equip good weapons and armor and absolutely slaughter it. Barely takes any strategy or prior knowledge beyond knowing that the Mimic tier has a few exploits that you can use to your advantage. Poor me never stood a chance. If Dark Souls has a well-earned reputation for brutal difficulty, there's one boss in this game that has a reputation for being the complete opposite. Like, almost impressively so, as though FromSoft saw what was happening with Ornstein and Smaug and the Four Kings and decided that this game needed something simpler, and so that's why Pinwheel is in this game? Is that what we're going for? He's not optional or some kind of special event where the path to reach him is harder than the fight itself. He's just a really easy Dark Souls boss. Apparently such a thing does exist. There's an added layer of irony to Pinwheel though. Magic builds tend to make Soulsborne games really easy, since the games are designed for melee builds, and having any kind of powerful ranged spells does make your life a little too easy, but hang on, Pinwheel is all about that magic life, and seems to have some kind of necromancy going for it, but can't really use any of it? I don't know, you walk up to Pinwheel and hit him a few times and he's dead. It's really not any more complicated than that, and it's a fight that 100% deserves its reputation. Could you imagine being Motoi Sakuraba and writing a 2-minute piece for the Dark Souls soundtrack for the Pinwheel boss fight that no one ever hears all of because Pinwheel dies inside about 15 seconds? If you want to lose some sleep tonight, look into Pinwheel's backstory because there's a reason why he's so easy. Dark Souls, you make me sad sometimes. I really didn't know what to do with tutorial boss fights. I feel like these are allowed to be easy, otherwise you're in danger of scaring a new player off, and if you've scaled your difficulty perfectly, they should be the easiest fight in the game. It's just a case of how much leeway I can give to a boss that should be designed to be the easiest, most forgiving encounter in the game. But it's worth remembering that too little difficulty does give off the wrong impression. Boss fights are still significant challenges, and if you've used the previous area to learn the controls and how your character fights, then we can afford to ramp up the challenge somewhat. Being the first boss fight in the entire saga gives Phalanx from Demon Souls an unfair advantage without the benefits of years of improvement and fine-tuning to FromSoftware's formula, but I still have to treat this thing as a boss from a Soulsborne game, and what are we doing? No, come on now, this is stupid. No wonder loads of people didn't know how to play this game properly when the tutorial boss is this much of a wet blanket that teaches you so little of what to expect from Demon Souls. Phalanx is a weird blob creature that is surrounded by shields and spears that can be removed by attacking them. These smaller blob creatures are enemies you can find elsewhere in Dark Souls, and they're literally the only way that Phalanx can damage you. In a series full of fast-moving boss fights and crazy damage sponges with massive health bars, Phalanx is slow and made of tissue paper, so it dies really quickly and has so little to threaten you with. The good news is that you don't have to worry about getting stuck on the tutorial boss, since you could probably kill it by sneezing on it, but the bad news is that it only gets hard from here, and drastically so. If you feel unprepared, maybe that's the idea? Disarm a new player with an easy boss and then kick the shit out of them later? That's some brutal game design. It's actually incredible how little like a Soulsborne boss Phalanx feels like, because, you know, it's got the look, it's got the lore behind it, you know, it's a strange design, but it's so easy. It's so easy to the point that it backs away from you when you get close. I mean, how un-Soulsborne can you get? This is RabbidLuigi, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more in the future. And if you want to watch a video right now, there's a video here about Nintendo's biggest mistakes. I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including AJ887, The Green Scorpion, and Scott Riker. Thank you for watching, and maybe Dark Souls doesn't need an easy mode.